on Google Hangouts, and we're going to get some information up this morning regarding the embassy update with Klan Mother Karen and Lucic MacDonald. We also have on the line with us Sergeant Daniel Brad MacBolen III, and we also have Peter Collins, who's on the phone, who's on with us as well, sorry, and who's been assisting the Klan Mother in getting set up in the new embassy and just getting her the flags up and just all the things that she's been working towards the last couple of months. So Karen, I'm going to let you just take it away at this point and share with us all the new updates that we need to let people know about.
Well, it's been an actual adventure, we'll just say, coming out of Saskatoon. Joining me right now next to me is a friend. This is Peter Mullen Collins, and he actually we had met actually in Medicine Hat, so we're doing some stuff in activation when we started doing some things initially in Elkwater on the original site as well there. So that was south of Medicine Hat. Since that time, actually we had a very interesting time in Saskatoon. We were at, I took him to show him the highlights of what we called Waniskewin, which was the second largest medicine wheel actually on the continent here, on the Americas Empire. And Waniskewin means Wheel of Peace. And we had a very interesting thing as I started doing some activations or reactivations, or I've done a lot of things at that medicine wheel over the last 20 years. But one of the things we had was a black helicopter within, what, about 10?
Yeah, just shortly after I started doing a little walking circle meditation, and all of a sudden we heard this black helicopter fly right over our heads, and it was within about 10 minutes, I think. Eh?
Yeah, it didn't take long. Yeah, it didn't take the boys long to get there, so we just kind of waved and kept going on. It's happened many times to me out there, but I just wanted to verify I wasn't the only one out there that saw it that day. Since that, we spent a few days between actually Winnipeg, Moose Jaw, Thunder Bay, Cochrane, and we finally made it here. So we're into the area just south of what we call Ottawa, into the Ottawa, Ojibwe, Micmac kind of territory areas of the original tribes and stuff here. I don't usually like to use the jurisdiction of Canada or Ontario, but as people know, Ottawa is actually one of the headquarters, what they like to refer to, like you would say in Washington, D.C., it's kind of like the capital. It's like Capital Punishment Hill or Parliament Hill up there. So that's where the new Justin Trudeau and all those people are hanging out. So it's kind of interesting being in the area. So we're setting up camp. We're just around what they call Campville, actually. We're back to our Chamatic language and Merrickville and all the maritime and in this area here, Oxford, you know, it's quite funny actually. What we did do though, we've just been cleaning things up and getting things prepped, and one of the first things I had the greatest pleasure was getting the Sierra out, and I took down
Canadian flag.
The Canadian flags are down that were here previously.
I had a post coming from the tree with the flag, so
loud.
So now we're putting up we have the Bear Clan flag.
So
flying there.
Yeah, and this is actually what it does look like. So that is the actual seal. This goes back from the original tribes that was gifted to my Babas and Vedmas and all the different tribes. So that's actually what a peace flag actually does look like. And this was actually all put into the Hague Court and stuff like that many, many years ago. And this was the stuff that was on to do with the original, if you want to say, as people think, I don't use the word contract in legalese terms, but covenants, i.e. treaty. So the definition of a nation is only, and you can look this up, those people that are still into Black's Law and all that, and Bouvier and whatever else, but the definition of a nation is that it is run by the head by a clan mother. And I know former Sergeant Patty Broussard with the Freedom Team, U.S. Army, and also set up all the computer labs for NASA space centers, will verify that's what they were doing in Iraq and at the gates and stuff like that, is to also go back and protect the original customs, usages, and laws of the clan mothers of the tribes and get back our artifacts. And that's something that also sitting here, we're very, very happy and very, very honored to be with the company and the likes of Sergeant Dan Brad MacBolen III, U.S. Air Force, and many other projects. We'll just say Dan can have his own accolades, but we want to thank each and every one of the oath keepers now for standing on their oaths and coming forth and to the assistance. So in setting up the embassy here, as we've been here a few days, we're going to require some stuff, you know, whether it's going to be, we got to get furniture, we're going to get beds again, there's some heating issues and stuff like that. So we're going to put out an appeal and a please, can anyone help with that sort of thing. We're also looking, as you said, to not only developing free energy machines, but getting me and Keshi, anyone with the Keshi Foundation, we'd like to get the free energy machines and, you know, disconnect and get totally off the matrix and off the grid. So self-sustainable, growing foods. We've got a gorgeous little, you can't see back here, we've got, Peter did establish a lot of stuff with the knowledge that he had at the time, so we need to kind of upgrade. It's like moving into a different dimension, but, you know, we got to get the wooden stuff in here. So we're pretty well on the path, you know, on the journey with this, but that's something. So we wanted to thank and everyone else, but also Peter formally for the gift of setting up and putting the foundations in here that we can use this as an embassy and initiate going into these lodgings and stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite an experience when I first...
You must speak up, Peter.
Yeah.
You get it.
Okay.
Project your voice.
A little bit here. Yeah, when I first met Karen, it was through an acquaintance of mine. I was supposed to be moving into an apartment in Medicine Hat, and somehow he buggered up when we were doing the form, and we were only supposed to be two of us.
We don't need to remember that.
Yeah, but anyway, it turned out that he ended up in the Salvation Army hostel, and that's where we met Karen. That's where and sort of brought her to my apartment. Yeah, it was. I met her there, and we met at the library, and in Medicine Hat, and I was blown away immediately. She was online with Patty, and they were talking about it like I thought I knew a lot of information about whatever, all the stuff going on, but I had very little knowledge in comparison, very little. Anyway, I was totally blown away by that. But I was taking Karen back to the hostel that night, and I said, "Why don't you just stay with me in the apartment?" So that's how we started our camaraderie, and since then we visited Elkwater. We got spring water. She changed my life around as far as eating habits and all that go, and it's been quite the ride. And later on, she actually got kicked out of the apartment because we were kind of incognito there. We had the landlord was quite terrible, actually.
You don't need to go.
Yeah, but I'm just giving a bit of a background
yeah.
of where we're at.
Yeah.
And anyway, we ended up. There was another gentleman there who took Karen in, and she tried to set up an embassy there, but that fell apart. And so she came back to the apartment and incognito again for a while. So it's been kind of it's a bit of a strained time for both of us. But then she ended up going to Saskatoon, and we kept in contact. And the plans were made to come back here because I had the house empty. I was supposed to be actually working in the oil fields out in Alberta, but that got terminated. I ended up having a job at Suffield Army Base there, actually. And so when we went back, when she went to Saskatoon, we made plans to set up an embassy here. And yeah, so it's been quite the ride, I must say. She's totally blown my mind in so many different ways with all her information, with the food and stuff. It's been a real transformation for me. I thought I was, you know, getting to a certain level, but she's like a little rocket booster. She catapulted me into the stratosphere.
Right.
And beyond.
I totally get that, Peter.
Yeah,
I have to say. No, first of all, thank you for sharing that, and I tell you why, because that's an example of what our clan mother du jour should not have to be going through on this planet. You should not have to go through that process. I mean, you know, what you're doing, the knowledge that you have, what you're doing by physically being alive and doing the work that you're doing is holding a space for all that's happening in this planetary realm right now. All the stuff that Sergeant MacBolen knows about, everything that Sergeant Patty Broussard knows about, all the work that they've been doing, and I know they also are your keepers as well, Karen. But when you think about it, I mean, when you look at the equivalent, and I make this equivalent only in the terms that our viewers and listeners can understand, you would never think of Queen Elizabeth going through what you've gone through, and yet she's illegal, and you aren't. But yet people don't recognize that yet, and that's the purpose of us doing these broadcasts. That's the purpose of all the work that we're doing, is to help elevate consciousness. And so what you shared, Peter, was something that, you know, we shouldn't have our clan mother having to go through that. We shouldn't have to be back and forth and not being respected in terms of that. So that's good stuff to put out there. And additionally, it's a beautiful foundation. I mean, the log cabin there, looking at the structure behind you guys, it's beautiful, and I can really see where you're going to be able to do a lot with it. And I want to also say, additionally, to those viewers, please be patient with our broadcasts right now, because the clan mother is not short on some of the latest equipment. And my network has gifted some things. Others have gifted communication and electronics to her. It's connections. We need to get the connections straight in the embassy there. And then it's also outside interference. You know, you talked about the black helicopters and everything. There's a lot of interference going on. So we would appreciate not getting the little notification saying that, oh, your video is pixelated or it doesn't look good. We know these things. We're trying to work it out. So maybe you could be a part of the solution here, and tell the clan mothers the ways in which you can help with their communications, with food, with the various types of things that she needs to set it up. That's what we would appreciate. And I hope I'm not coming off rude. Sometimes I can be a little strong, but I want to just be pointed about it, you know, because we get a lot of comments that are like I like to say, Captain Obvious, but we really need, like I've quoted and say it before, my grandma used to always say to me, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And that doesn't mean sometimes you don't do anything, you're still a part of the problem, because you're not contributing to something that is helping us all. So anyway, I wanted to say that, and I wanted to say thanks, Peter, for sharing that. And thanks for all that you're doing.
Yes. Thank you, Peter.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, thanks, Steph.
Well, you got some sovereign
It's really
soil.
interesting, because it has been, we've got some noble, and Noah's the noble savage. We'll be going pretty wild around here.
I think also,
and that's something that people can look up.
If you're comfortable, Karen, also with these embassy updates, as we're updating weekly on what's going on and keeping folks informed, maybe on the video we can also just put a list of those types of things that the embassy is seeking as gifts. And that way people can physically see, as they come across the videos, some of the things, and they can, like they say, get in where they fit in, you know? If you're comfortable with that, I can make sure.
That's a really important point. Yeah, I mean, we're out of commerce, so we're taking, you know, I cannot take the commerce, right? I mean, that's the whole point of shutting down the trust accounts and the, you know, IMF and that sort of thing that we have put in. As we explained in our previous segment, you know, about people not voting, deregistering, that sort of thing. That's really, really important, because, you know, you're being handled. You know, this is very much in the mind control. And so getting people to realize that, you know, since basically 2011, you know, the end of that contract, or the end of, you know, they think the Mayan, the Aztec calendar, that's really what it was with Project Looking Glass. That's why they couldn't go any farther. But by the time we put everything formally into the Hague Court and the Privy Councils and United Nations and everything else was actually coming into 2013. But we did start in November of 2011, which is why we had the alchemy event and stuff too. So by that point, I was meeting with, you know, international people and people in the different, you know, agencies and that sort of thing has been set up, which led us here. I think it's important that people realize that is required, you know, whether it's beds here or things. There's a great foundation that's been put into here, but at this point, you know, to get heating properly into all the rooms. So really, it's also for people that if they wish to come up into the Ottawa Kemptville area, or if there's people existing, you know, that's what we're looking for. Taking this to the next level is really, really important. And as you said, Elizabeth is actually Mrs. whatever, Catherine, you know, we're looking at Elizabeth Catherine Mary Windsor Mountbatten, Battenberg Windsor is not really a queen. She is an outlaw at this point. She is the fugitive from justice, and there are international court warrants out for her. And we have information that she may be in a little residence with a big purple roof right next to the Denver airport, which is quite well known about the deep underground military base there, as we can see from the satellite station. So, you know, these are things, and, you know, people that have done stuff with Kevin and Ed and the satanic circles and the Ninth Circle and the child molestation and a lot of these missing Aboriginals and tribal peoples, regardless of color, this is what's been going on, being used in deep underground military bases and as for food. It's not only for sex, it's for all sorts of things, monetary thing, taking the DNA, using them for cloning and for slave labor, not only on this planet but any other planets, and the stuff that we know to do with the Mars Defense Force and Earth Defense Force and stuff. So it's really important that people do wake up, you know, in here and realize that we're coming in. This is why we're called with that gift of discernment. And I couldn't have been happier to be with Patty and Dan, Sergeant MacBolen and Sergeant Broussard, when that actual incident and the event occurred. That was probably one of the best weekends of my life, staying up with them all weekend on and off. But to know the potentiality and how we could actually go in and see the connections to the synchrotron, and I was able to, you know, put the pieces together to assist them to know that that Large Hadron Collider was really every synchrotron, and then to know it was at the University of Saskatchewan, was one of their headquarters, of course, which was the connection to all the light source and over 100 different satellite sites with these miniature CERNs or Alice and Atlas, and you know, this PPAI that Alfred Weber was talking about, you know, it's pathogenic, it's predatory, it's, you know, it's a pandemic, you know, but it's also to do with artificial intelligence and the black sentient goo and so much protecting the water. So that was what the first thing I did, was to figure out where the water was, our spring water here. So, you know, we're going to have to go up to just outside of Ottawa to Carlsbad and other places. So it's really important to establish that. First things first. But, you know, I wanted to thank you, and we need to bring something to the attention of the viewers, is that yesterday we spent, what, 3 hours maybe, all of us, actually going in and making 2 different interviews. And, you know, I'm talking about the NATO. There's a NATO military, you know, 150 feet away from me. You think that, you know, we need to be utilizing this kind of stuff. And this is restoring back, which really, you know, is coming back. It belongs in our hands to start with. And as, you know, the 13 original clans, tribes, nations, ours was for all the Anglos called the Eye of Isis Treaty, the Camels, Kamatic Eye Treaty. It was also referred to as the Noah's Ark Treaty, where someone may have called it Solomon's Seal or other things, Wampum Belts, Peace Pipes. There's many different versions. But right now, I'm the 13th. I'm the last of that entire tribe, outside of one of my children, of the 2. But having said that, there's very few of us with the, you know, White Bear and the Anglos and the ET, but the Star Nations left here. And so these were actually put like gardeners of the lodge, or the angels, or the is what we refer to, the queens of the heaven, the queens of the earth, that kind of thing, the queens of the sea, the maritime, whatever, many things is what we refer to as, you know. But it's part of like looking after people, and part of that is for them to get grounded. That's where we go into the health aspect, using the biofeedback, radionic machines, getting people on baking soda. We will bring in slowly but a special, the creator's salt, you know, to add in to repair that 3rd strand DNA, utilizing the technology that we have. It's amazing to be able to gift that to people like Dan or yourself or Peter. because really you're tapping into the inner creator part, but you're getting into those records. You know, there are places on this, you know, as you call repositories or libraries that are stored with these original records, the wisdom of the sages and the wisdom of the clan mothers, you know. And this is what we need to come back and store. So I'm really thankful to that. But if people can start getting grounded, start doing the baking soda, starting looking at wild ennobled waters, wild ennobled foods, using the aromatherapy internally and externally, like whether it be Young Living or stuff like that, or I'm on a grounding mat here, you know, black tourmaline and amethyst, anything we can do, crystal stuff like that that you've got there, and to be earthing or getting into these superfoods. It's really, really important and critical as we're shifting right now. And
Right.
Dan's going to probably talk a little bit to, you know, to what we've seen in CERN, to what we're seeing coming through that soul gate or the transition gate. We're seeing a lot of overhead firing that's actually entered into our airspace with the Dracos and all sorts of things that are creating havoc, and we're not going to tolerate this anymore. This is really about protecting and locking down and clearing things out,
Right.
you know, and sorting what's what, who. It comes into even people sleeping together and intercoursing for commerce. We've got aliens. We've got augmented people here. I mean, this has got to come into the time of peace, and this is what the enforcement agencies are now to be doing. They've got their orders, and they've had for over 2 years, and they're doing an excellent, excellent effort for the most part. You know, we have to really be thankful to these oath keepers and these men and women that put their, you know, their lives on the line, and they're not just on this planet, but on other planets. They're extraterrestrials, you know, and part of that whole alien shift right now. So this is part of the disclosure of Canada in my meetings with, you know, former Minister of Defense Paul Hellyer, all the Stephen Bassett's, and, you know, different things, the modern knowledge tours put together, people learning about original laws, Santo Bonacci with the Universal Truth School, and this is really about universal law. Dan and I were talking earlier, and it's the cosmos. It's about universal law, and this is really what it is. It's coming back to our original customs, usages, and laws. And that's where people have to know their DNA. You have to know your mitochondrial, which is your mother's side, the matrilineal. And this is about having a balanced thing, kind of like, you know, the Klan and the dragon court sort of thing. It was always, always balanced. You know, this is not about a bunch of Amazonian women taking over.
No, exactly, not at all.
This is about caregivers. Yeah. No, it really is the original laws, and these men respect that. You know, they guard us. There are, you know, like I said, it's a secret. We got the combinations these days.
We need you to run. We need you to run
Dan,
the show when the rest of them run away.
Yeah, exactly. We need somebody here that's going to be in charge for real.
Yeah, because the cabal is running away.
And people don't realize that.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that the security clearance that these people hold, they have more security clearance than Obama, Justin, or any of the de facto corpus juris secundum, second world, as I call it, warring. Okay, and this is why we're in a peace. I'm in a different jurisdiction, but I've been, you know, elected, chosen, and brought here, and by special appearance, this is what's going on, to bring peace back and the universal peace laws back, not only to this planet, but to the people here, and reestablish this. Because there is wars going on, and there's wars not only for your mind, but for your soul and stuff, and this has got to stop. And it's not allowable anymore. We're not going to allow anyone to trample on our rights. And different things like what's been going on with the Archons and the Dracos, no longer. They've got no contracts and they have no rights to be here. So whatever's required to remove them, they are to be removed. And anyone that is not standing in peace anymore is considered to be an enemy of the nation. And these men and women are well apprised of what the definitions of enemy of the nations are. So people need to get their own lives into alignment, find out who they are, get their bloodlines cleaned out, and get their own places into order, and not be pointing people at homes and more chemicals in these places with people I've stayed with than there are. I take more containers of Windex and Tide and fragrance candles and Chef Boyardee, and, you know, go into homes that there's not one thing I would consider healthy food I wouldn't even feed to an animal. or mothers feeding popsicles and food dye additives and cancer-causing agents. You know, I haven't been really feeling too great since I left the Kootenays, where I had some, you know, control over the environment because I've been staying with people. It's just about done me in the last few months being with people again, quite frankly. And so we need to put that into thing. This has got to be so that we're able to speak freely, we're able to gift like brothers and sisters, like friends, so that you're not charging each other or intercoursing into commerce, and doing that for the benevolence of everyone. And we want to say mir and yubya taba, which means we love you. And we want to thank people, and we want to thank them for being in kind in their kindness, and also for their understanding of the laws of the land. And that's what we're here to reestablish. And, you know, I'm very honored to do this and very excited. And at some point, you know, my children will learn to take this all in as well, because a lot of people have gone through, like what we've gone through, like in residential schools, and, you know, being played with and through mind control, and a lot of things too, from sexual molestation, all sorts of things have occurred. And so this is the time to reestablish that. And that's the other thing too, when we're talking very much about the bloodlines, and, you know, as we were talking about, you know, RH positive and negative, and how that really affects people, and how things have been usurped, and those lines and those people have been corrupted as well. But in order to do this benevolently for everyone, we're going to, you know, have to come in with the peace laws now. So, and it's great to have that recognition. You know, it takes an awful lot to raise your vibration and your frequency, and realize, like you were saying, you know, earlier, that, geez, everything you thought you were standing on, that you realized that you weren't standing on stuff. Things that we were taught in school, you were schooled and institutionalized, is not correct. But I really like to, yeah, thank in here. So we're going to require stuff. So probably the best way to get a hold of us, or most exciting. It's okay to give you your cell?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do that?
Okay. My cell phone is 613-316-8212.
And you got an email?
The email is letter C, Peter Pat, PETERPAT @yahoo.ca.
My course is Clan Mother 13.
Let me get that again. So it's CPET at Yahoo.
Yeah, it's C, letter C, PETERPAT @yahoo.ca.
Okay, because I won't put the phone number, but I will put the emails on the bottom of the video when we're done. So I want to make sure I get that right.
Sure.
Yeah, there's sometimes people want to connect.
And then it's clanmother 13 at gmail.com. At gmail.com.
Yeah. And again, yeah, and I think a lot of people are aware, you know, through Circle Healing Network, Facebook at Karen Ann MacDonald. Most people know Sergeant MacBolen. They know Sergeant Broussard and stuff like that too. So there's numerous ways, because I'm still seeing clients still one-on-one for skill biofeedback, radionics, you know, for their education purposes. Yeah. And
that's one of the things that you do largely, is help people with that biofeedback and with healing, and giving them the feedback that they need to even, because that's how we, you know, met. I saw you on the basis interview with Miles Johnston, and when you were talking, Peter, it was like you were like talking like they telling my story, because I connected to you energetically right off, Karen, and, you know, we contacted and started talking, but I was like, okay, I want some of that biofeedback, because I've been a conscious eater for a long time now. I've done self-healing, you know, I'm vegetarian, all that good stuff, but I'm still exposed to a lot more than what I need to be exposed to, and you taught me a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, so we started off in that healing relationship, and still are, and I encourage people to contact you, because even and really the people who already think that they're pretty healthy, give Karen a call, because most times you're concerned about the health thing. And so you will really appreciate when she shares with you the other things you need to be doing, because you're not as healthy as you think you are. The people who are just kind of stepping onto the boat, normally not as impressed, because I don't really think you always know exactly, and it's not a negative thing. It's not till you learn more about it that you start seeing, oh, wow, my goodness. But those of us who've been doing this for 30 years and 40 years, and all of a sudden you find out, wow, I'm still a mess, you know? So it's really important to...
Karen sets the bar very high.
Yeah, and then the other thing about it you were talking about also, Peter, is I've experienced the same thing where I came onto the scene, you know, the Klan mother scene, with, you know, with a lot under my belt. I mean, you know, I pretty much knew a lot of stuff and was down a lot of rabbit holes, and, you know, and I talked to her and Patty and Dan, and I'm like, I always have a pen in my hand. I'm always writing stuff down, and I got to go and research stuff, because they're talking things like half the stuff I've never even heard about before. So I really feel I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Like you trying to like say that again, and you don't want to say it 3 times. You know, like when you first say "huh," and then they say it again, you say, "No, what did that mean?" And yet, like by the 3rd time, you say, "The heck with it! I got to research this because I'm like really coming off crazy." But I can't. I love you guys a lot. I can't thank you enough for all the energy and all the information that you're putting out. And I only hope that our viewing audience is just as appreciative. And I even put in the notes, you know, take what you can take, because all of it you can't absorb. All of these conversations you can't take and walk away with at one time. Take the piece that works for you, and the piece that seems like it's really far out, just go research it. Go look it up. Do your own thing on it. Just don't say I don't believe in it, or oh, that's crazy, or they're crazy, or they're full of stuff. No, just at least research it. At least be open-minded enough to say, well, it's possible. Let me look into it, because you will really be surprised what you will find out there that begins to support a lot of the information that the 3 of you guys are just giving freely. You know, well, Patty's not here, but Patty's like a runaway train. My God, you get her started, you better have a tape recorder, because you can't get her to stop. I mean, she just is like one huge chunk of stuff after another. It's not even like little stuff, you know? So I just wanted to throw that out there, Peter, that I was talking about.
26 hours worth. The first time I met Patty, it was 20. We were on the phone. We were actually Skyping for 26 straight hours.
I believe it. I don't know what she uses as fuel, but we all need some of that.
Well, she ran me into the ground, and then a day later, it was another 23 hours that we were on solid. And it's because, I mean, she showed me things that my eyes had never seen, you know.
Right. It's crazy.
I thought I'd seen a lot.
So do you want to go ahead and do a CERN update before we get off of this recording? And I know when you and I were talking before, I think waiting for Karen to come on. He was going over all of his electronics there, and we have all kind of. I have one down on my bottom of my monitor that we have 2 viewers, but your stuff says we have a whole lot more viewers than 2 right there. Oh my God. Got all kind of people listening in.
That's awesome. Well, you know, and that's great. The power of the media, and it shows that, you know, what's not on mainstream with people, you know, turning your TVs off and getting that brain frequency thing off of you. But we're able to disseminate this information very nicely. If Dan can bring them up even with his phone, I know if he can. If not, I'd have some still my screen share from the last couple nights to do that. It's a new computer in Windows 10, and you know, it's like I'm speaking Linux and Ubuntu, and I'm speaking Mac, and I'm speaking like, you know, 7.1 Ultimate 8 and 10 all in front of me right now, and I don't do any of it well, but yeah, I might be able to bring some up. But I think it's really important to going on to the Star Wars a little bit, seeing as Patty's not here, and to the CERN update. So I think that's really important that people put things into place and get things, you know, being prepped, and we know things can change on just within a blink of an eye, but it's really important that people have, you know, sprouting in foods and access to water, the weather and geoengineering and geotranshumanism and everything else can change very, very rapidly. So we'd like to have everyone having, you know, the most exciting and, you know, best times ever, so peaceful times. So
Absolutely. Well, why don't you do the screen share, because Dan's on his phone, so he's not going to be able to screen share, but maybe you put some stuff up. We can just kind of bring folks up to date for where we are right now, Dan.
Well, basically, when we go to the Meltronics page, it's a forged CERN page, so it's all fake, and so we know CERN is running because we see the geyser. We see the geyser coming up when it overheats. There are certain things that we are doing that causes it to overheat, and they're trying to fine-tune their equipment so that they can work within the parameters that we set for them, which is not dangerous for the planet. And of course, they're not going to be able to open up a macro singularity with that kind of power. It's just not possible. And so, if they go over that, they overheat tremendously and burn up the new equipment. And so, any of the CERN pages, like the Vistars and the Meltronics, is all forged. We even have the date that they went from being live to being to lying, to where the CERN page is actually a forged page. I've been monitoring the chairs moving around in the control room, the lunchroom, and the conference hall, and it's like, yeah, there are people there, but you don't get to see them, but they're there. The parking lot's empty.
What do you mean by forged in terms of computer language?
Basically, what they do is they have a fake CERN page, and then they have the real, actual control center, and it's being done by remote control. It's called Puppet Master, Artificial Intelligence Puppet Master. They say that AI stands for automatic installation, but Puppet Master is basically a remote control of the Oracle Golden Gate, which we call Blue Beam, but they call it the Oracle Golden Gate, which they're trying to establish a macro singularity, a large wormhole to Mimas in order to bring in backup. And with the things that we've been seeing on LASCO 3 is basically there's been an influx of individuals that are coming into the Sol Gate, in which they're shooting like crazy. I mean, they're flooding in, and a lot of Archon Draco craft have been destroyed on fire. It's a free-for-all, but the activity has increased tremendously. A lot of shooting, a lot of destruction of Archon Draco ships that we can recognize. And so whoever it is that's coming in, firing a spiral beam, their weapons are having a much more effective toll on completely destroying the ships. The Archon ships are being spread out over probably 20,000 miles as they're blowing up. They're literally, whoever's shooting them, they're shooting with a spiral type beam, and it's scattering the debris over 20, 30, 40,000 miles. It shoots them right through the rear on the drive engines, and some of them catch on fire. Some of the hits are not completely direct, but since the new folks have showed up, the Archon, I have confirmed that whoever is shooting this spiral type weaponry, they're shooting Archon Draco ships, and they're just being spread out across. I mean, it's just the destruction is.
How many ships they have been destroyed right now? If you just had to put a number on it, but
I can't number it. If I look over a 4-hour period, the number of laser strikes or beam strikes, because the new guys they're not just firing beams that look like pressure or ring beams. They're firing something spiral, and whenever they make contact, the ship just spreads out across, and like I say, it leaves debris over a long, and I mean it goes right through the craft and disintegrates it. And so if I were to guesstimate number of fired strikes per 20 minutes, I would say probably based on all the running around and the flying away that's happening, I would say there's probably in excess of 1,500 discharges per 20 minutes. So that's in the thousands over an hour period. And I'm getting to look at every 20 minutes. I'm getting to look at a screenshot. And if you count the number of lasers that show up in this, and then multiply that by 20, you're looking at just tremendous. And they all seem to be moving into what we call the southeastern quadrant. I mean, they're actually chasing the Archon Dracos in that direction. They're keeping them away from the gate. They can't escape. And, you know, they're not getting any help at Mimas. So,
because some of the reports that I've heard, I saw a few reports on YouTube and what have you of fireballs, like I think it was one over Atlanta last week, and people are just seeing these strange fireballs in the sky. Could that be some of these getaway, or
yes,
maybe
well,
just maybe
when we're looking at LASCO Charlie 3, which is the red disk, we're actually seeing something very close to us. Whenever we see a distortion in the telescope, satellite telescope, it means that there is a weapon discharge nearby that is producing an electromagnetic pulse, which is disrupting the satellite. And on the backside, we have LASCO Charlie 3, and that that's quite a ways away from us on the other side of the sun, and it has been having tremendous amount of strikes. Some strikes, at least one or two, right near the satellite telescope itself, and you'll know because it distorts the imagery. And for that to take place, that means that strike had to take place at the second that picture was taken.
Wow.
And there just about 2 days ago, probably 2,200 hours Greenwich Mean Time, there just became a flood of spacecraft coming out, and I mean 50, 60 in one picture. In one picture, you got 50, 60 coming out, and they're chasing the Archon Dracos are just going in every direction. And the new guys have got this spiral type weapon that looks quite unusual, multicolored, and the strikes they make seem to be they're no longer, the Archon Draco ships are no longer just on fire and egressing. They're literally being destroyed with one strike. Where the other weapons, they damage the drive system, and you'll see maybe 2,000 or 3,000 miles worth of flames coming out the back end where it's burning up. These, whatever they're using now, is when it penetrates the craft, it annihilates everything, and that's when Patty showed you that one strike, which is quite a long. That's about a 50, 60,000 mile. It took that craft and spread it out because the beam was so intense that it annihilated everything, and it stretched out 40, 50,000 miles space debris. And I mean, that's some serious. We haven't seen that kind of firepower since when you just showed that picture where you see it had completely darkened out the satellite, and you have this big burst about 20 times bigger than the sun. that's when the new guys started coming in, and that's what kind of it was so powerful it shut down the satellite on the backside, and so that had to be a tremendously big strike, and they're wiping them out left, right, and center, and I mean it's violent. I thought it was violent at first.
It's been going on for a while, hasn't it?
This is 48 hours since actually going on. Let's see, probably 72 hours. That new people have been flooding in since the 26th, I believe, 25th, 26th. They just started flooding in from all directions, the front and the back side of Saul Gate. And when they start shooting, you'll notice on Lasco Charlie 2 on the blue screen, you'll see that the beams themselves are clockwise spiral, and it is very unusual, very multi-frequency, and it turns the huge Archon Draco ships into, it just annihilates them. I've never seen anything that big spread out over 40,000 miles from a laser strike or a beam strike of that power.
I mean, it's safe to say that it's probably safe to say that we Earthlings are in pretty good shape. I mean, because if they haven't used that stuff on us, then we're good. I mean, I'm trying to say when you because always people say, "Oh my goodness, that's so scary." I mean, you got that kind of stuff. Well, like if they have, I mean, that's way worse than nuclear weapons that we have. So clearly, if we haven't seen any of this being used against us, then this type of warfare must be being used to protect us.
It's here to guard us and protect us, because I went out when there was a clear spot where I could see, and once your eyes get used to the light, then you can actually see the beam strikes. You can see small flashes with the naked eye. I have not used I've got a large binoculars, but it's like I really don't want to see that. I mean, it's enough to see it on Lasco. I thought the first round of fighting was violent. This is taking it to a whole new galactic level. This is huge ships being destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of lives extinguished in a moment. But they're Archon and Dracos, and the council is not there. Somebody's done playing around.
Right.
And the Council of Five were just shooting these little pea shooters. Well, now they're wiping out. If the beam makes contact with the rear of the ship, it devastating. Devastation on a level I've never seen.
Right. When you guys were talking the other evening, all four of us were talking, me, you, Patty, and of course Karen, grandmother. You all were saying that a lot of these ships are planetoid in nature, and I'm bringing that up because you said hundreds of thousands of lives are extinguished, and I think a lot of us have this image of spacecraft as it could be like maybe as big as what we saw in the Will Smith movie, or was it that movie?
Right. Yeah.
Just made the second.
That wouldn't even be detectable. You wouldn't even see that. You would not see that on Lasco.
Yeah, and that's what you think is, wow, that's huge. But you all were talking the other day about these planetoid type spacecraft. So they really are carrying their planets with them almost. I mean, these are they're inhabiting these things, and that's why when they get blasted, you have so much debris and what have you. And so many lives are
you've got a 5, 6, maybe a 10,000 mile long craft with unknown amount of Archon Dracos within inside, and these ships are going down to the point where they're all fleeing to the southeast quadrant. All of the Archon Dracos, I've caught one Archon Draco ship that I could identify. Before, I would see a lot of them, and I saw a lot of Anu ships, Anunnaki ships, and the Anunnaki ships are missing. They're all fleeing to the southeastern quadrant, and all these vessels, I would say, probably half the size of Earth, are chasing them, and there are just too many to count. There's thousands upon thousands of these craft that are about half the size of Earth going after these Archon Draco ships, and you really can't tell how big they are because they.
Here's a picture right here that Karen has up. Maybe you could point some of it out in here so people could see what you're talking about. Like, these are not all stars, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, you can see once you get to actually seeing it move, you get a 20-minute shot, and you line up those shots, and you see tremendous amount of warfare going on. The gate, the Sol gate, has not closed in 72 hours. It has not closed. Archon Draco ships are trying to flee back into the portal and leave, and they are not being allowed to leave. They're getting shot while that big explosion that you just showed, which was probably 20 or 40 times the size of the sun. Yeah, that was something huge coming out, and it didn't make it. And they're trying to make their way back in and get out of the gate, and they're being cut off at every avenue. And
so describe this for those of us who don't really know what we're looking at. The shot is coming in from the lower left hand of the corner, and what's being exploded is on the upper right hand of the corner. Is that right, or is that wrong?
Well, actually, if you look at they're coming in on the lower left hand. Now you'll have some coming out where the sun, there's a sunspot coming out at, I'd say, 8 o'clock.
I see that
at the 8 o'clock position. Most of them are coming out at the 8 o'clock position. Some of them are coming out at the 10 o'clock position. Some of them are coming outside of the back side of the gate at the 2 o'clock position because the back side of the gate is blown out. That happened about 5 days ago, where they blew the back end of the gate out, and now it's opened up. And so basically most of the whoever this is that's coming in are coming in hot and heavy, and the weapons that they're firing are tremendously powerful. To spread a 20,000-mile craft over 40, 50, 60,000 miles. I mean, the scale is hard to. It's very difficult to gauge, but it's so huge it shows up on LASCO, and you know, these are tremendously big ships, and the violence of the battle is like nothing I've ever encountered.
And nothing. That was just the 28th. So we just looked at that. Was that last night, Grandmother?
In the last 48 hours, when they started pouring out the gate, they're coming out of the gate shooting, and they're firing these spiral-type weapons. And I finally saw one because the camera is time-lapse, and so it takes a picture. And I saw one, and I saw an Archon. I could tell it used to be an Archon Draco ship, but it's spread out now over, I don't know, I'm just estimating 40 to 60,000 miles because it got hit. And it seems like every picture contains about, now these pictures are taken once every 20 minutes based on what I've seen, and there are at least anywhere from 3 to 12 strikes per picture. And it's like, if this is happening in a split second, what kind of firepower is actually going on? It's unimaginable. And these craft are incredible size and the destruction. And the Dracos, the Archon Dracos, are being dealt with in a very harsh manner. And I like the one that you see right there. That's got to be at least 40 to 60,000 miles in length, and that's looking on our side, actually, where you don't see the stylus. You're really not seeing. There's not anything attached to the stylus showing. It's two different pictures, two different satellites looking, and so you really get to see a good size. And the circle in the middle. The white circle in the middle represents our sun, and Earth is just north of that, just at the 12 o'clock position. So a lot of these strikes, if
you can see the slight halo of it. I think when Patty showed it before, it was like a little. It almost looks like a daytime moon or something, right?
Oh well, yeah. You saw the one
right
where
it. Yeah.
Well, that's probably 40 times the size of the sun. That explosion. That's the one that caused the big flare that hit 7 days ago.
Right.
The spiral, what we call a toroid solar flare. That was so strong.
And to the point that Patty and you guys were making on our call yesterday, talking about renewable energy, if that's not an example of the fact that there's freaking renewable energy, because they're not stopping and having no refueling. Think about it.
They're coming in fully charged, and when they shoot, it's a no warning shots given. It's just blazing, and the fighting is so fierce that it's like I have never seen such carnage. And I've seen a lot Earthwise, but never something on this level. This level of fighting. That,
and our houses are still tethered to poles down here for electricity. I mean, really now? I mean, did you just joke on all of it? When you look at these kind of pictures and you see the kind of warfare that's going on out there, and this is not just, because I know you have some doubting Thomases, and so they can look. I'm trying to get that back up, Karen, and you know, and they can look at these things and say,
"What would you like?"
Well, no, I see you putting it up, but every time I go to click it, I'm just getting it's a connection thing right now. But it's good. And people look at this and say, well, those are just graphs, and he's saying that's what it is, or she's saying that's what the picture is. I don't know that's what the picture is. Well, you can line this up by just going and looking at fireballs. Look at all the fireballs that people see all over this planet, unexplainable things, explosions in the sky. I've seen some reports of the Archon chemtrail sprayers just getting blown up. I mean, there's footage of this being blown up in the air. You know,
and such tiny pieces are making its way into our atmosphere. These are just little tiny pieces of this craft that are making its way into our environment. And there's only been about 3 or 4, and so there's really no danger. But the shooting has been taking place over our heads. Right. I found a spot where there were no clouds, and I went out and I just fixed my eyes on Polaris, and all of a sudden I began to see very faint laser strikes. What you're seeing on the LASCO C3, and I mean, when you can see it with the naked eye, this has got to be tremendous amount of power. Each strike could probably has enough energy to run the world for, I don't know, a year or two. This is serious type of scalar weaponry.
Yeah,
and it is, and the nuclear explosion that took place right around over the top of the sun, where it completely blacked out the satellite. It was a serious EMP. It took moments. It took more than 20 minutes for the power source in LASCO 3 to cool down before it could come back on. So, and that is in electromagnetic pulse proof. it shuts down, it cools off, then a mercury switch reconnects it, and it comes back on. Well, you miss probably 40 minutes worth of action because of that blast. I mean, that goes 20 times the size, 20 to 30, 40 times the size of our sun. And so, this is not this. They're playing for keeps. The new guys on the blocks are much more aggressive, and I mean, I'm not kidding.
I'm happy about that.
I thought the first guys were aggressive, and they didn't seem to be. And then after you get used to the battle, you think, well, they're not being aggressive enough. Well, when
here come the new guys in town. It's like that Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
The sheriff has come to town. I mean, like, we're ready. I mean, and people have to understand that, we always talk about it, Karen, you, Patty, myself, we really are gentle people. I mean, it's about love and peace on this planet. It's about health and healing and mental health and spirituality. And for a big tough guy like yourself, Dan, you always talk about how powerful love is, and that's what I really like about you and talking with you and everything, is that it's an unexpected thing. The first time you said it, I was like, oh wow, really? He's coming from this love thing, and I was impressed because I was like, okay, you get it, and this is what it's really about. But like we were saying the other day, you have to understand, if somebody is coming to kill you, aren't you going to pull out your gun and shoot back? I mean, forget about peace and love, man. I mean, you got to protect yourself. And that's what we're talking about.
I give them a split second before I pull the trigger, but the thing is
that's about it. Right?
What I do is I manifest. I manifest them to run away. Because I don't really want. I mean, I'm armed, and I'm very good at what I do.
Right.
But I don't want to do that. I would much rather pray, meditate, and manifest them to another place where they're not being harmed, and they cannot cause harm to any human being or other species, or even to themselves. Because I don't really want to shoot holes in my. I don't want to shoot up my house. It's not mine. You have to get it's not my house. And so.
Shoot it up.
Well,
what did you say? Yeah. You cut out. What did you say?
No, I was just going to say, one of those things, we're going to excuse Peter because he's got some things he's got to take care of here first for us. So thank you for joining us today.
Listen, thanks, Peter. And
one of the things.
We'll have to have you on some more here. Share, in on this.
Oh, well, thanks a lot, Robin. It was a pleasure. And nice meeting you, Dan. Okay.
Yeah, and one of those things, too, is just going to say that one of those things that we're going into is never mistake our kindness for, our meekness for weakness. We're definitely not a Gentile, and I'm not very gentle either when you get to do it. But one of the things is we've got to come into people getting themselves healthy first and getting their minds freed. And that's really what it's about. And as Dan said, it's for the benevolence of everyone. This was probably the best plan that we could come up with all the way around. That is benevolent for everyone, but we don't have to tolerate people that are unwanted guests or visitors and in a parasitical methodology, to this planet or whatever. And it's no different than, we've got a mold thing here. We've got enough thieves, like I was telling you, aromatherapy being diffused here. But again, it infects into things, and like anything, it has to be removed. And it can be recycled in some other, transmuted in some other form. It cannot stay here, though. And that's when you deal with mold or black mold or whatever else. It cannot be cleaned. It has to be removed. And some of these people that are not supposed to be here will have to be removed.
Well, actually,
until we can find something.
It will be the kindest thing that you can do for them. I know that's kind of hard to understand, but destroying them, actually not but like you say, transmuting them into pure energy is probably the kindest thing you could do for them, given their violent nature and the mad dog syndrome. provocative uses of madness.
Right.
And so,
and the people don't realize, as Patty brought up, these were the people that actually took those triple spirals. They played with the chromosomes from 48 to 46 and dumbed down the people and removed the triple spirals. We have enough that we need to repair right now, and I'm very grateful. These men and women have been briefing me and mentoring me for several years to the point they got me. I think we've got it now. And, you know, that's it. And like we said, we can be nice to a certain point and being in kind, but the point is we can't have our rights trampled, and it's no different than even for 2 years. It's gotten to the point that a lot of these de facto officials are illegal, they are unlawful, and we are not going to tolerate it anymore. And it's time to step up for the plate, and those people that are ready to step up and wish to see peaceful communities, this is how it will be.
Yeah, it has
until we can get.
You have to meet that kind of violence with exceeding force, terminal force.
And I think people need to really. They're gonna have to get to know and to understand the law, and that when Sergeant Daniel MacBolen here, I mean, Dan is just not any regular man. And I know, Dan, if you want to just talk for just a few minutes, you are a very specialized man and being. And a lot of people don't realize that the combinations of augmented or different kind of soldiers that have been put together here to assist. Could you just touch on that? People really need to know who you are.
Well, it brings back a lot of bad memories, but basically, you know.
But just the fact that you.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is that.
Very lethal.
That from that point, we don't have to do anything because it's classified. But the thing too is that you're comfortable that you've done a lot of things that are awesome for protecting a lot of people.
Well,
and these aren't just sergeants.
The biggest thing is
you guys were the elite. Yeah.
Yeah, we were basically sleeper assassins, and we did what we were able to do through rage. We used rage, not love, and then that's why love is so powerful, because it's so much more powerful than any rage that we could produce or any destruction that we could create by rage. Love was far more powerful, and so that's why I don't want to resort to those things. But when the training and the programming kicks in, the minute it needs to be done, I know before it happens. I know before they come what needs to be done, and it saddens me because love is a lot more powerful, and love is really what I want to use. But when push comes to shove, I will not be tread upon, and I will win. I always have, and I've suffered. I've been shot, burned, stabbed, blown up, and I'm still like a Timex watch.
And I think a lot of people, a lot of people that are not familiar and don't know a lot about the Super Soldier program, they can look at them at the basis program. There's Max Spears in 37. There is myself and the Black Sentient Goo that's been put into the waters as basis 46. I'm 47. 53 segments. We got a whole series started for education for people. So I just wanted to thank you, because a lot of people don't realize these people are not human. You guys are specialized.
Well, they don't think the way
they could be parts that are like. Yeah.
And in order to deal with them, you have to make them understand. And if you can't make them understand, then the law is the law. Universal law is you don't mess with someone else's free moral agency. If you do, that's when I have to do what I have to do, and I don't like doing it. But the thing is it's what I do best. It's the best thing that I do, and I don't like it, but somebody's got to do it.
But a lot of things to protect right now is the motherland right now, and that's, like you said, the law of the land is to protect the motherland right now. So
And the biggest
And
key
we just wanted to
is
thank you for your
manifesting it away so that the violence doesn't come. And the guys that have been coming in lately are really taking they're taking them to the cleaners.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad you
anyway, I
brought
just wanted to thank you,
Karen.
Every other oath keeper, yeah.
Yeah, and it's important for people who do look at this to understand that you know, and I'm glad you said that, because I think that a lot, but then I forget it because Daniel is just so, you're just so down to earth, and you're just so matter of fact with how you're putting this out based upon all that you've actually experienced. And I know I always think of you as like, I actually really gotten to meet Jason Bourne, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, the trailer park.
Guy,
the trailer park version.
Everybody loves. No, I don't know about that.
The guy that lives on the street version.
We all like that guy. You know what I'm saying? And
well, you see what he's able to do, and the thing is not everything is as it's portrayed in the movies. We're eating out of garbage cans,
right?
And we're living like in rat holes, and it's I've handled 19, 20-inch stacks of $100,000 bearer bonds with coupons attached, 19 to 20 inches, and each one of these little pieces of paper is a $100,000 bearer bond with the coupons attached. The guy had to break them into two 10 or 11-inch stacks and put them inside a suitcase. And the tremendous, I don't know how many millions of dollars that is. Each one was $100,000 U.S. bearer bond. And the coupons were attached and unsigned.
Wow.
And so that's a lot of money. And so I've had a lot of money in my hand, cuffed to my wrist. But the thing is we live like peasants and dogs, and we're issued weapons, and we had, but the biggest weapon is right here. And when you can manifest your enemies away and get them out of danger so that you don't have to whack them, I'd really like to get away from the shoot 'em up. I'd really like to get away from that. But the thing is it's what I'm good at. And I will do it. I have done it. I will do it, and I will continue to do it. But it's not because I want to. They bring the fight to me. They leave me no choice. Then I have to do it. It's very sad, but I don't get sad very long.
Right.
I have to do what I have to do and move on and continue on until the job's done, and however long it takes. That's how long I'll go. And so, and I have a lot of other help from other people who prevent me having to use violence as a resolution. Right. If we take and manifest them to a different place, wish them to another place where they have to really go through a lot to get back to civilization, bilocate them to a different place. People do that for me.
Right.
Guys show up, and then the next thing you see, they're gone. They're missing.
Right.
And I've encountered that many times. And I have help from, I don't know how you call it, higher ups, 8-foot tall guys. I first time I encountered this individual. This guy's 8 feet or taller.
Wow.
And
telling us about that.
Yeah, he's wearing sunglasses at night. I thought I was hallucinating. Somebody had come to set my house on fire, my wife's house on fire, and he used a laser to start a fire in the basement. And the big guy had the little ninja boy by the throat, and he has him about 1.5 feet off the ground.
Unbelievable.
And he's got him by the throat, and his hands reach all the way around the guy's throat. The guy's my size, and his hand reaches around there, And the guy, he has him at arm's length, and the guy is trying to kick him. And I look through the blinds, and I'm 40 feet away from this conflict. And I open it up like that, and I'm like, this has got to be some kind of a positive hallucination. And so I look again, and he's wearing sunglasses at night. And he looks towards me, and he turns 45-degree angle away from me, and he's standing in my driveway. Couldn't be more than 40 feet away. And he disappears with the Ninja Boy. And he has the Ninja Boy a foot and a half off the ground.
You said it was like he took one step and he had just disappeared out of your view.
He rotated to his right, to the south, and he and Ninja Boy disappeared. And I didn't see Ninja, and I thought, oh man, that's got to be. And I saw him twice, 2 more times after that, standing between the forks of a pecan tree. So I went out and measured it with a tape measure, and it was over 8 feet tall.
Wow.
For me to see his helmet, and I saw him there, and he somehow sensed that I was aware of his presence, and he turned around, and he's still wearing these wraparound shades, and he just moved out of my sight, and the tree is like 25, 30 inches, that limb, but he's standing over 8 feet tall in between there, and I could see his K-pot. He was wearing a Kevlar potted, helmet, and dressed in desert style. But his weapon he had a weapon that was slung out that I didn't recognize. Very shiny weapon. And usually guys with black ops, they don't go for shiny weapons. And this guy had a weapon that was slung out across his back when he was dealing with Ninja Boy. And later on, when I did discover that he had burned about 10 feet of the beam down in the basement, I found a place where he was laying in the mulch, and a little where he had rubbed the dirt from around the window to put the laser through and cut a cord, to melt a cord so that it would bend over, and it did start a fire, burned the J-box down.
Wow.
And had to do a lot of serious repair work there. But that, and like I say, I only saw the guy 3 times total. Once he's taking care of Ninja Boy, the other time he was standing, both times he was standing on the other side of a huge tree that I have, pecan tree. He's standing on the other side, and I caught him on one side. The second time he was in between the forks. The third time he was there, and from that time I sense him being on the property, but I no longer see him, or I see movement, but I don't pay attention, because I can sense that it's one of these guys. It's not just one. There are many of these fellows around the property, because the dogs go off on them. They'll be standing in front of the door, and all you could probably see is from here down, it's a 6 foot, it's like a 6'5" door, and you're seeing this from here down, and it's like, that's a big dude.
That's a big guy.
That's a big guy to be picking guys my size up by the throat and holding at arm's length. The guy tried to kick him. His feet could not reach the individual. And and the dogs see him all the time, and now they're pretty much staying in the shadows. They're literally, I can sense them, but I can't see them with my physical eyes.
Right.
So, but I know they're around, because I have these dogs that will bark if you drop a screwdriver on the floor. They go off. They go off at the least little sound. A dog is barking next door. He goes off. I've got dogs all around me, and when I hear the dogs going off, I know it's these guys moving around.
Yeah, I have
go out and I look.
I have two dogs, and I know one's a smaller dog, the other one's a pit, and it's amazing. You can tell by the way your dogs are barking what's going on. They have different type of barks when it's something not right. I mean, I have my one dog will just bark, and I can look out there and I do not see a thing. But I've had this dog for getting ready to be 8 years. This dog, you can tell the bark. The bark is there's something out there. I don't give a darn if you don't see it.
Right.
It's out now. I'm just the warner. You figure the rest of it out.
Right. Well, all our dogs are tiny. Our dogs are tiny because they're very difficult targets. You try to shoot one of our dogs, you'll end up shooting yourself.
One of mine is like that too. You're not gonna catch him. I mean, my pit cannot catch my smallest dog. He is so fast that he outruns her.
And you can't. That's what frightens a lot of criminals away, because you can't shoot a large dog. You can get a beat on. You're going to shoot that dog. You can shoot that dog. Little dog, it gets around you. You're going to end up shooting yourself more likely.
Right? They're ankle biters, and they can get in and out of your ankles and back around. And yeah, you're right. It's funny. But
well, the fact that you've been detected is you need to just go away. Because you have failed in your mission.
Yeah.
You have failed. If you can't put that dog to sleep, then you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, we probably should get ready to. I know we've been a good over an hour. Our talks are always like this. I just love talking with you guys. You know that Karen and I, when we first started talking, it could be just hours, and I'm like, I was so blessed because it was so much education. I just look at her as my mentor. I just love Karen, and I just thank her so much for her friendship. And you too, Daniel. I mean, we've just recently met, but I consider you a friend, and you've just really educated me so much. And what you guys are sharing with the listening and viewing audience is just huge. I mean, I don't really know that people who are viewing these broadcasts and listening to these broadcasts really, really understand what a blessing they're getting, and that they're at a time that if you've lucked up on any of these videos, then you have a mission that's in line with these videos. You just got to understand that, and regardless, because these are, it's a special kind of energy that's pulling us all together right now. Biblically, as it said, for such a time as this. But it's true. I mean, we're all pulling together for what's going on right now. Yeah. And so I just only encourage people who are hearing a lot of your story for the first time, Karen, that's hearing the story for the first time, the setting up of the new embassy, whatever pricks your heart. And like you were saying, Dan, it's about intention. Just going inside your mind, settle in your spirit, close your eyes if you have to, and just, absorb what it is that I'm supposed to be doing right now. How do I contribute to all the work that's going on above our heads that we do not know about? And it's not crazy. It's not insane. It's not, they're getting that Star Wars. They get Star Wars and stuff from somewhere. They're not that darn creative.
They're fighting and dying for us, and we're not even aware of it.
We're not even aware of it. It's so important for us.
And there are millions dying every day. I mean, I don't even know if we can put it in, I mean, these people are fighting for us. So, I don't know what their agenda is, but I have a lot of respect for their weaponry.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Some serious guns out there right now. I would not want to be in charge of discharging a weapon of that nature. That is just beyond.
You're talking about kahunas. That takes a good set of them just to be that settled in your spirit that what you're doing is for a larger cause that is benevolent.
And if that's what it takes to free other prisoners from other slave camps, then we'll go in and do it one-on-one, face-to-face. And I prefer a face-to-face fight. A one-on-one, eyeball to eyeball, because it's better that way. It's easier to sit back there and fire some kind of weapon that'll just spread a 20,000-mile craft across the galaxy, but when you get eyeball to eyeball, that's when the rubber meets the road, and
Yeah.
you got to get with it. And so I prefer a stand-up fight, but I prefer no fight.
One of the
Is
things
really
I
what
like.
I prefer.
Right. Go ahead, grandmother.
I just wanted to get people so that they're coming in, they're starting to focus on what we need to do. There's people dealing with these kind of aspects and the Star Wars programs and stuff that was developed by these governments that people were voting for. It's just wrong. And so we need to come back, and when I call coming back to the original base, almost like the basis program, it's about even the pH. And I cannot reiterate enough that people that are not thinking properly, not grounded, depressed, from cancer to whatever they've been gone, or using drugs or prescriptions, this is from a cause basically of being acidic or negative or depressed, the immune system without any diplomatic immunity, so to speak. This is when this is settled in with these candida yeast infections. The people themselves have been taken over. This is what these FEMA camps and stuff were set up for. And don't think it's all down there, because there's no borders. I keep hearing people go, oh, they think they're Canadian, they're safe. I went, you have no idea that there's no borders, and these places exist all over. Every city is a potential camp that can be locked down within minutes. Absolutely. And they're underground facilities. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds underneath your feet, even as we speak here in the Ottawa area, or Saskatoon, or Medicine Hat, or Nelson, Q552. They're everywhere. They're Banff. They're everywhere you may not even be aware of, plus the underground transit systems that we are. This is why it's important that we start getting and protecting the spring waters, what we do have, because they're uncontaminated, but they're ormus and they levitate up. They will actually hydrate your brain with beautiful monatomic, crystallized elements, noble elements or minerals, electrolytes that you cannot get in the store or get into your regular health stores. There's no such thing as enriched. So I want to really encourage people to do that. And if they can start taking some baking soda, aluminum-free, getting some Soleil, which is Himalayan salt every day, maybe a baby pinch of boron or borax, that is the start to health, is looking after yourself. That's what being self-empowered is, or being sustainable. And that's getting back into what I say, a state of base, or basic, or is alkalinity, is looking up the foods and Googling what is alkaline. Starting to look at the aromatherapy, whether it's Young Living or any other medical food grade essential oil aromatherapy. If it's food like peppermint or orange or frankincense, they can all be taken internally. Clove oil, oregano pills, doesn't really matter. You need to raise the vibration higher than what these different infections, entities, archons, whatever we want to call it, have gotten in and infected people's memories. And this will help protect people against the chemtrails, the Morgellons, the nanotechnology. Essential aromatherapy is the nano remedy. And this goes way back before into Stonehenge and all the tree oils, frankincense, cedarwood, sandalwood. All those ground you. They're grounding foods, but they bring it up. Looking at different things like raw amazing. I'm going to be very excited to get to meet with Natasha Kisio. She's opened up something called Simply Raw, getting to the raw food, into the vegan, getting into my community, into drumming circles, things like that. Finding people that are supportive of what you're going to do. That's very, very crucial. Finding the nearest enema bag here. Colon hydrotherapy, it's all about the water. So even to have that old cellular memory, but the only way to access our third eye or Akashic records that have been locked up through most people's fluoridation or chlorination or vaccine program, or if they're on prescriptions right now, you are drugging yourself with different things that will lock down and prevent receiving those higher grounding or transmissions. And this is where the higher chakras come in, or opening up these different glands that have been shut down or dormant. A lot of people have been dormant or shut like this since they have been vaccinated. So it's coming back to the land of the living, and this is for those people that are ready. So I just wanted to thank you guys. I can't reiterate enough that people really have to look after themselves, because it's really peaceful. This really isn't a change too much for me as to what's coming in, and getting some natural things back. And that's what we'll be looking at Keshe. I'm going to be very excited when Patty starts releasing, and we'll start a series with new kind of free energy or plasmic technology, right, Dan? I mean, it's amazing looking at the warp drives and what's available that has been there, that's been considered hidden or occult, or part of the secret space programs, the stuff that this technologies will be slowly being released.
Yeah, the Keshe stuff is really amazing, simply because it's so simple, and it's something that the average human being, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand. All you got to do is do it and let it cook. And put this graphene layer on your wires. It's really not rocket science, but it is very nano. You're putting nano, what do you call it, carbon. It's called graphene. A very thin layer of graphene, which makes your wire superconducting at room temperature and above. So the poor amount of coefficient electricity you are getting is really hyped up to the point where it becomes very efficient once it's being superconducted. So even though it looks like really stupid technology, it's good stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and this is something on Facebook that we've been able to join in with lots of groups, like Allie's in Vancouver and Ben Couch. I was just talking to Alan Friday and stuff. There was like Keshe, Ontario, and I've seen now in the last week probably 4 or 5, and Sweden, different areas, reporting in where they've actually got them up after about 2-3 weeks, and it's taken that long, but all of a sudden they've had everything plugged in, and all of a sudden the loads are changing, and this is an exciting time to be able to think, producing like 7-8 kilowatts, and you can feed back to the grid, but let's look after ourselves first.
Right.
It all starts here first.
It's amazing.
Really, this is not difficult, and having put Oregon together, a little drill, and to take copper winding, just 14 gauge, you're just wrapping it so many times around here and making a couple little coils. It's not more than, maybe a couple minutes to do. I've seen one of the guys do it on a drill within seconds.
Right.
Make 6 of them, and then put them in, and then fire them up. We're going to fire them up and create that coating on it, and you can do that with a propane. Go one way, one the other. You can look this up at the Keshe Foundation at the Spaceship Institute. They've got free blueprints out, and they are dispensing, of course, machinery out, prepackaged up. But this is something that people go in. I could do this at the kitchen thing here, and I actually do have 14 gauge upstairs, by the way.
Well, being patient.
But this is something that we need.
Patience is required because it takes time to grow this graphene onto the Romex wiring in your house. It was incredible being able to do this in Africa with little coils and chemical and charcoal in a pit where he took the coils, and he just showed you how easy it was.
And what's crazy about it, also, is it, like you said, it takes a few weeks to get it up and running, which is, you put your whole load on it too, he said, put the whole load that is expected to ultimately run, and then that way the system gets charged for that amount. You don't just put a cell phone on it, you want to put your whole house on it. But he said what he noticed what happened with some of the tests that he did in Mexico, like 2 years ago, is that at one point the whole house started running on its own. It's almost like it's an AI of some sort, a positive one, where it actually migrates into the system of the house, and then it becomes self-charging, because one woman that had gifted it had used it for a year. She took it off her house and gave it to another friend to put on her house, and meanwhile the first woman's house was still running without this device any longer, and it was still producing this free energy. So I mean, that's impressive.
Well, the fact that once you develop this layer, it makes your energy that you're paying for probably 500% more effective.
Right.
And so your bill is going to go way down. Your coefficiency is going to go way up.
That's what I'm talking about, because here my bills are just ridiculous. It's unbelievable. But anyhow, so I guess we should go ahead and wrap it up, because I know we just love to talk here, but we probably, for respect to the audience who doesn't want to miss out, but doesn't always have like 2 whole hours to sit down. So we'll just go ahead and close out now. Again, thank you again, Sergeant Daniel Brad MacBolen III. Just, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Every time you put, give us the time to come on like this. And of course, Clan Mother, Karen Ann MacDonald, you're awesome. Thank you for all you're doing, all the knowledge. Thank you for the self-healing that you're giving to me and helping me and healing my body, and the knowledge healing my mind. And so one of the things here at Circle Healing Network, it's all about healing the mind, the body, and the spirit, so that we can prosper in this new era. We're living in wonderful, beautiful, dynamic times. And as we regard it like that and use our frontal cortex, that frontal lobe, which goes straight up, we can embrace that, and we can manifest more of that in a way that is dynamic for life. And so this channel is all about life, and we may talk about some what may seem like dark subjects, but they're not. It's like you got to drag that darkness out into the light so that you can do something with it, and with knowledge and power. So again, thank you guys, and we'll get on again soon, so we can get Patty and Dan to do the technology piece. That we talked a little bit about the Keshi here at the end, but I know, Clan Mother, you really wanted them to get into it deeper and really just continue to educate the audience. So we'll make that arrangement soon. All right. So again, thanks a lot, and we'll talk soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Blessings. Peace.